Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I want to start off by saying thank you. So this is the first Valentine's Day that I have had since the breakup of my ex with me and my ex PMDD partner. And the amount of support that I have received, the amount of just leaning in with checking in with me and knowing some of you, especially my private clients, I've been on sessions over the past, 48 hours, a couple days, even after that. And so many of you have DM'd me on Instagram where I document my journey every single day and blog it. And you sent me, emails, and you've just asked how I was doing. And my private clients at the end of our sessions have just been, asking like, hey, Dr. Rose, how are you doing? And I just wanted to express my gratitude for the community that we have, because when I started this podcast almost 2 years ago, I never imagined that I would be in this position of having a PMDD, breakup. And granted, this wasn't a monthly breakup, meaning one that I always tell you, let's stop the monthly breakups. This is one that, kind of gradually got to that point. But a year ago, I was just thinking back because, you have those time hops that come up and, Facebook just loves to remind you, and Google Photos just loves to remind you where you were a year ago. And, a year ago on my journey with my ex-PMDD partner, I was at a marriage conference literally a year ago. And we were actually, asking the pastor to pray for us to have a baby. We were trying to conceive. And a year later, less than a year later, because it's happened a couple months ago, I found out I went to the doctor. And, because I was having issues and I was like, what's going on? And they told me I was, pregnant within the first month and had lost the baby. And that was the same month that our marriage was ending. And the two of those things together was almost, it felt like more that I can bear sometimes. And I've continued on my same, routine, my same journey, my same lifestyle, but everything has just seemed so much harder. And I appreciate the recognition of that. I was on a client call earlier and I was giving them tools, right? Because that's what I do. And I was consistently, saying, this is what you all need to do. And both partners were on the session, and I'm not going to say their names because I didn't ask their permission, but I really just wanted to share this. But they were like, Dr. Rose, you do all of this for us, and you still have your daughter that you homeschool, and you have a full-time job, and you actually have PMDD, and you're going through this breakup, and you're giving so much to us. Who pours into you? And I literally started crying because I'm human, number one, and I have emotions and I'm very open, especially with my private clients. If you've ever been a private client of mine, I'm very transparent with my journey. And I think that was like the light bulb had went off, that someone else was able to recognize what I was going through and how difficult, it could be for me internally. And I just appreciate feeling seen. So many times when individuals have made comments and DM'd me or emailed me about how this podcast has been helpful for them, it's because they literally say, I finally feel seen. I finally feel like someone sees me, someone knows what I'm feeling, they know what I'm experiencing, and I don't feel alone. I feel seen. And so I think the reason why I cried was because I am on this healing journey, and I felt like somebody saw that in me, or somebody thought in their mind, Dr. Rose must be going through a lot. This must be a lot for her. And it has been, and it's been affecting me in multiple ways, as a mother, now not having a partner means, that father figure, in, my daughter's life is not there. And even as minuscule as the bond was, meaning because it was long distance, it was a little bit harder to form that bond, because I think there were a lot of things, on a parental aspect that needed to be worked out in the same household. I strongly believe that we went through a lot of roadblocks with parenting because we had different parenting styles. But just like I've told any of my private clients, you just have to work when you have blended families, when you have, families with teenagers, you just have to work a little bit more strategic when it comes to the tools that you're using, and you have to use tools. And so what I want to talk to you today is something that a comment that comes up very frequently with a lot of individuals who are looking to start counseling, looking to start private sessions with me. And they're saying to me, Dr. Rose, I know that we need help, right? This could be either partner. They'll say, I know that we really need help, but my partner is not on board. How can you give me some tips and tricks on how to convince them to start sessions with you? Because I really know that we need it, and I really want to do it, and I just need help on convincing them. And I thought back to this because earlier in my journey, I would say, hey, well, how about you suggest this and then see if they'll come? Or how about you do this and see if they'll come? And what I've learned over the years, and even with my own PMDD relationship, you cannot force your partner to attend private sessions or counseling for your PMDD relationship. I'm going to repeat that because that was very hard for me to even, come to grips with, is you cannot force your partner to get help with counseling or private sessions in your PMDD relationship. You just can't force them. And I remember towards the end when I was, noticing the red flags with my PMDD partner, because I noticed the red flags because I literally have private sessions with PMDD partners all the time. That is what my life consists of. Every single day I have client calls, and I've seen how that doesn't work. I've seen where they finally convince their PMDD partner to come on the session, and they're just sitting there and they're not engaged, and it's not important to them, and you can't make it be important to them. And they're sitting there, and there's a lot of, I'm going to go into the first tool. Okay, so what we're going to talk about, just want to recap a little bit, is ways, 10 reasons why you can't force your PMDD partner to come to private sessions and to get help in your PMDD relationship. The first thing is there is resentment. So when your PMDD partner feels pressured or tricked or manipulated into going to counseling, they're going to start to have some resentment towards you. They're going to start to think that you're trying to get me as the doctor to be on your side and to prove your point, as if I'm your lawyer and I'm advocating for you, right? So again, if you've ever been my private client, or if you're interested, I want you to know I am an advocate. Think of me like a lawyer for both of you. I don't pick sides. I don't pick favorites. I definitely don't pick favorites for the one that has PMDD. So that's another common misconception. And I can do a whole episode on the common misconceptions of working with Dr. Rose. A lot of times you may think that because I have PMDD, because I know what it feels like to suffer with PMDD, that I am going to favor the partner who has PMDD so much that I'm not going to be listening and adhering to what the other partner's going through. So a lot of times, people will hire me and say, hey, like, I need you to hire me to explain to my PMDD partner how I'm suffering so that they can know, so that we can all agree that they're the ones that's wrong. And I don't do that. And I remember my dissertation that I wrote, which is a bazillion pages. Matter of fact, I have it right here. My dissertation, because I'm like, what was the final page count? So we've got 100, and you're listening, to probably hear 161, 161 pages. That's in my dissertation, years and years of research. But this is advocating for PMDD partners, for the partners of individuals who suffer with PMDD. So I went in depth with what your partner is going through, the one that does not have PMDD. I give tools in there and a lot of research on what the partner who has PMDD is suffering with and how it impacts the relationship. But I really delved deep into the experience of the partner that does not have PMDD, because I felt like I knew that was under researched. And so when you're coming on these private sessions with me, I am advocating for the both of you. And there's no blaming. There's no who's right, who's wrong, who did worse, who. I've heard it all. I've seen it and I've heard it all, as far as hearing all of the trauma that can happen in PMDD relationships. I've heard about the verbal abuse. I've heard about the physical abuse. I've heard about the psychological abuse. And it's not a matter of who has done the worst thing. It is more so a matter of what is the tool that is needed for your specific relationship. So every single time that I have private sessions, it is very customized to what you have experienced in your relationship and how PMDD has affected it. This is why I don't do any cookie cutter programs. This is why I don't do any cookie cutter tools, because every tool is related to that individual couple and what they've gone through. Some of you have been together for years and you've experienced PMDD, and some of you have only been together for a couple of months and you're just learning about PMDD. So the way that I treat my private clients is very different. And the first reason that you cannot force your PMDD partners to come to private sessions and to get counseling and to get help is because they will resent you. You don't want to feel or make your partner feel like they have to come to get sessions and they're not going to get heard, because the biggest fear, there's a lot of fear with going to counseling, right? Especially when one of the partners introduces someone to counseling, to the counselor, right? I always suggest that both of you listen to my podcast first, because both partners will be able to gain some kind of understanding and knowledge and tool from listening to it, to where I need the buy-in from both partners. I need you to both understand and trust that I have the tools that are going to be able to help your PMDD relationship. So I understand that there's a lot of apprehension and there could be, fear of not feeling validated in what your experience is. Sometimes it is perceived that because one partner has PMDD, that they are going to be favored because they're the ones that's suffering. But a lot of my clients, their partners have other disorders too: PTSD, ADHD, ADD, what is it? Another common one, OCD. Oh my gosh. A lot of trauma. And a lot of it some of it comes from the relationship and some of it does not. But you don't want your partner going into getting help and feeling resentful, right? You want them to feel like it's a decision that you both made together. So what I can tell you is, in order to get rid of that resentment, when you feel like that you're listening to me, you're like, I know that we need help and I know that I want Dr. Rose to help us with private sessions. I want you to open up and have that conversation with them. Let them listen to the podcast. Once you've introduced the podcast to them, they've heard, a couple of episodes or a episode. Some takes longer than others. And ask them about it. Just open it up and have a conversation. That way, it's all about teamwork and understanding what their fears are, what their apprehensions may be, what they think you should do. And then you're going into the sessions on one accord, agreeing that this is the best thing for the both of us, versus you being on your last leg and saying, listen, You already know whenever someone hears that they're about to have a breakup, what's the first thing they say? Have you gone to counseling? Have you tried counseling? Have you tried to talk to somebody? Have you had a mediator? Have you? And it is commonly known as a last resort. But what I want you to do is come to the tool and the solution for the place that you're in together. So the second thing is when your PMDD partner feels like they're being forced into counseling, they're going to respond with some resistance and some defensiveness, right? They're going to get defensive and say, we're fine. We can handle it on our own. I don't need to talk to someone in order for us to handle our problems. Like, I don't want to talk to a stranger about the issues that we have going on, because you know why they're getting defensive? They're probably remembering a lot of things that happened within the PMDD relationship, and they don't want it exposed. Some people are not as comfortable with exposing a lot of the trauma that they have experienced in their PMDD relationship. But the comfort that you have with working with me is that because I specifically and solely work with PMDD partners, I have literally seen it all. So I'm not going to be shocked. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to shame. You're not even going to have to explain to me why certain things happen within the PMDD relationship. I'm going to understand why. So there's no judgment there, right? But when you're in that place and you're really just feeling like, oh my goodness, I don't want to rip the covers off. I don't want someone to see. A lot of times you may want to keep your issues that you have in your relationship hidden, and you just want to keep trying again and again and again to do it on your own. And what I can say to that is, when you're getting defensive, and if your partner's getting defensive, this is another open conversation. So the tool would be to have an open conversation instead of trying to force them and say, no, either we talk to Dr. Rose and we get counseling, or it's not going to work. Don't threaten them. Don't force them, threaten them and say, your relationship is not going to work unless you have private sessions with me. Really get to the bottom of what their fears are. If your partner is getting defensive, ask them why. Ask them lovingly. Say, babe, why do you think that this is not going to work? Or what is your hesitation with this? Or what is your concern? Like, I really want to hear your point of view. What is your concern? And when you let them know that you're wanting to hear about the things that are bothering them, the things that are causing them to fear having the sessions, they're going to let their guard down, and they're really going to be able to tell you, okay, this is what I think is going to happen. And it is not for you to tell them that they're wrong, or they're overthinking it, or why don't we just try? Just say, I can understand that. I can understand that. That's a valid fear that you would think that, and you can, and again, be open. Say, I also have fears about having these private sessions. I know that we've been through a lot. I really do. And I know that I just don't want us to continue in this place. I want this relationship. I value this relationship. I value you. And I really just don't want us to get into a place where we're beyond repair. Right. Because when I went to my ex PMDD partner and I started seeing the red flags, a couple of years ago. And I'm like, hey, we need to deal with this. Like, there's certain things, and I started to create a list, because this is what I tell my private clients to do, is create a list of the things that you feel like your issues are, and that list started to get bigger. And I started to say, we have issues with these specific things, and we really need to deal with them. And so, because what happens is, when you don't deal with one issue, right, it begins to turn into a multitude of issues, and then it begins to get so overwhelming. And that's a lot of times where the defensiveness comes in, is because you get into this place of feeling like you're overwhelmed, like as someone's dumping a whole bunch of things on you. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, where you feel like you ask your PMDD partner, okay, so what are our issues? And then now they have like 10 things, versus in the beginning, they could have had like one thing, right? So ours, and I can even go down the list to kind of help you understand a lot of how our list began to grow over the years. One of the first things was the snoring, right? I talk about the snoring being a trigger, and I know some people can say, oh, okay, you know, snoring is, a common thing that some couples have, and some people are able to sleep through it, and blah blah blah. But remember, when I used to always talk about this, and you can go back on past episodes, I used to say that I was deeply triggered by my PMDD partner snoring, so much to the fact that it began to be that we couldn't sleep in the same bed together. And so that really went into the lack of intimacy because, first is we can't sleep in the same bed together. And then it's like one person will go on the couch. And then it's like, okay, I brought a bed into the office, so I can go in there and get some sleep because a lack of sleep in PMDD, that's just, it's not good, right? The combination is not good. And the next thing that was on my list was, the co-parenting thing. A lot of the tension that came between, my daughter and my ex, PMDD partner was blamed on me, saying that, oh, she's like this, or we don't have a good relationship because of you. So instead of really addressing the issue with the child and trying to develop a better relationship, I was put in the middle and saying that I was the cause of it because I was like allowing, her to do certain things or her to be a certain way, where I believe in autonomy. I'm not going to force, again, forcing doesn't work. That's what we're talking about. But I can't force a child or especially a teen to like you, to love you, to like do the extra things. Can I ask them and pretty much require that they be respectful? Absolutely. But as far as the extra love, attention, affection, all of the things that was desired, I can't force that. That has to be established. But a lot of it was put on me. And so there was a lot of bitterness and resentment there. And then, one of the other things, because it got into the point where there was like a lack of affection, a lack of intimacy, a lack of vulnerability, there was just things that I didn't know. Um, and it's like things that you should know about your PMDD partner, where it was like, a facade being put up, where it's like, you're not being open with me. You're going through a lot of things internally. And instead of me being able to be there for you, I'm having to guess because there was no openness. And that's what starts to happen in your relationship. And I really say this is when you really need to use the tools, because when you feel like there's a wall up between you and your PMDD partner where you know that they're not happy, but they're just shutting down more and more often, and there's less and less communication, that's because the issues are not being addressed and they feel like, what's the point? They're starting to lose hope. So that's just a couple of things on my list. And I have a very long list of it. But again, it grew over time. And so when you have that defensiveness, it's like, let me understand what is preventing you from getting help so that we can get beyond this, right? Let's get to the point where we're both understanding that we need to get help and it's not in a forceful way. So the next thing that will happen if you try to force your PMDD partner to, get help with counseling or private sessions with me is a lack of engagement. I have seen this so many times on private sessions where there's one partner that is there pouring their heart out and they're telling me everything that's going on, telling me the issues that they have in the relationship, all of these things, and the other partner is just sitting there, stoic, emotionless, not engaged. Right? When you force your PMDD partner to go to a counseling session, they're not going to be motivated to actively participate or even invest in the process. When we're talking about investment, I remember I had like a couple of clients where, one partner didn't want to invest in a sense of they didn't want to pay for the sessions because they felt like they were being forced into it. So it was a situation where they're like, hey, if you're going to force me to be here, you pay for it. And they did. But then what happened is they paid for the session. One partner did, and then the other partner got there and they weren't participating. And so it's kind of like, I need something to work with. I need both of you to at least be open and in agreement. Am I saying that you're going to be running to me in open arms and saying, oh my gosh, I can't wait for counseling. I can't wait to have a private session when your relationship is like pretty much going down the drain? Absolutely not. Nobody comes to me super happy about being in these private sessions. But what happens is over time, when you get the tools, when you see your relationship transform, that's where the gratitude comes. That's when they start to get happy about coming to sessions because they're coming to me every week and they're saying, last week we had this issue, or last month we had this issue in PMDD and we almost broke up, and now we didn't. And they're like, I can't believe this, Dr. Rose. Like, this is the first month that we've had when we actually didn't try to break up. Like, yes, we were triggered. Yes, we had some things, but all we did was use the tools, and then we were fine. And before you know it, PMDD was over, and there wasn't even a thought about a monthly breakup. And that's the transformation that happens from having the private sessions and using the tools. But if you're in that place of not engaging, it's not going to work because I give homework. I give homework after every session. I say, okay, this is a plan, and we have a plan for the week. This is what you're going to do. And both parties need to participate in the plan. And if you remember or even listen back to my podcast episodes, I used to have a private session with my PMDD partners on Sundays. And I used to call it like a walk and talk. I would like put my headphones on because we were long distance, and we would just for hours just talk about whatever it is that's going on and just address our issues, and that's what helped us. But when there was that lack of engagement, when there was like, I don't have time for this, or it just didn't happen, or it wasn't made a priority, all of those issues that we had talked about and handled on that one day a week, when that was taken away, the relationship started to go down the drain, because now it got built up and there was more issues and more issues and more issues, more disconnection, more lack of intimacy, more lack of connection. It was all of that, but it all started from taking the tools away because of the lack of engagement. So your PMDD partner has to agree to be engaged and participate in these sessions in order for it to work. And all I really need is a crack in the door. Do I need the door to be wide open? Absolutely not. The door is going to be wide open over time. There has to be trust that's built with me on a one-on-one basis, right? Both of you have to feel safe. And I know a lot of times you both know that I understand and you trust me based off of understanding PMDD and the suffering that you're going through. But when we're on those private sessions, it's very, you have to be very vulnerable. And you have to be very open. And for some people, that's harder than others. And so the next thing that can happen if you force your PMDD partner to attend, these client sessions against their will, meaning they told you, I don't want to be here, right? They're like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. And you're like, basically like, yeah, either you go to this counseling session or we're going to break up. So then they agree to it. They're not going to be authentic. They're not going to be honest during the sessions. That used to happen a lot of times where my PMDD partner would just portray that everything's fine, right? They just didn't, there was this fear of talking about the issues that we had because he was fearing that they would always turn into a fight. It would turn into an argument. So instead of actually talking about the issues that we had, or talking about the triggers that he had, or talking about the issues that were bothering him, there was this inauthenticity where they were just like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. What's wrong with you? Right? Again, it was the inauthentic, it's being inauthentic mixed with the defensiveness. Like, I don't have any issues, you have issues, right? I remember him saying that to me one time. He was like, you always want to have these talks and stuff. I don't have an issue with the relationship. You have an issue. Everything with you is a trigger. Everything with you is a PMDD. Everything, like, there was this defensiveness in a way that it was like pushing me away, because he didn't want to lean in and be open and vulnerable about the issues that he was having with me. And I would be in those places of being like, listen, I'm willing to hear what it is that you think that I'm doing wrong. I'm willing to hear the criticism. I'm willing to hear all of this, because in counseling sessions, it's different. I don't really call it criticism, because you're just revealing the problems that you have with your PMDD partner, and you're not doing it in a way to hurt them. You're doing it in a way for them to really understand what's really bothering you, what's really triggering you. And when you stop doing that and you just become fake and you just want to just show up and just be really robotic and just be like, oh, everything's fine, and you're asking them questions in counseling and they're just like, well, we're here because they have issues with this, and this. Like, you have no issues with them, knowing good and well you have issues with them. And I can read. Again, most of my sessions are on Zoom. As I'm traveling, I am doing a lot of in-person sessions, which is really exciting for me, because, I'm really big on body language and energy and just, feeling everybody out. But I'm able to do that online because, I have clients in over 60 countries. And I feel the energy, and I know when someone is just being very surface level and fake with me. I'm not going to call you out on it, but I'm also going to know that the likelihood that the tools that I'm going to give you working is very minimal if you're not being open and honest with me. If I say, hey, like, what is going on with you? This is a lot of times, and the tool for this one is what I will do when I recognize that this is a thing, one partner is not being authentic, because they have a fear. It's normally based off of a fear that they're going to be judged, that they don't want their PMDD partner to hear it, that they feel like they're going to get in another fight because as soon as they get off the session, now that it's been brought up, it's going to, maybe they're in a good place and they just want to stay in that good place and they don't really want to talk about the issue because then they feel like they're not going to be able to reel it back in and get back to that good place. So they would rather just sit there and say everything's great, everything's fine, because it's easier than opening up a can of worms. I'll have a private session with one of the partners and I'll say, hey, let's have a one-on-one. And then they're able to be open and vulnerable with me about what they're really going through without fearing the repercussion that they may have from their partner, of their partner getting triggered. And then I can give them the tools one-on-one. And I call this the pyramid sessions, where I have a private session with both of you. And then we have one together where I compile all of the tools together. And I will be offering that a little bit later. Actually, by the time this episode is being released, I will have openings for that. They're very limited. I don't open them very often because I really go in depth. And again, if you've ever worked with me, I am giving you the tools and I'm going in depth with what it is that's specifically going on with your PMDD relationship so that you can walk away from those 3 sessions with resolutions for your problems. You walk away with absolute tools for the issues that you bring. You can bring 2 to 3 issues and we'll just be able to deal with them and just take it off the table to not have to deal with it every single month. When the issue comes up, you'll have a tool and you'll have a tool that you both have agreed to. That's what's most important is when I develop my tools, I make sure that it's within the realms of something that both of you believe that you can accomplish. I will never tell you to do something that's overwhelming. I will never tell you to do something that you feel uncomfortable with. I won't say, hey, you have to do this really hard thing. And one partner's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, oh, well, that's it. No, I'm going to make sure it's good for the both of you. And we work through that together. So the next reason why, oh my gosh, the next reason why forcing your PMDD partner into counseling is not going to work is because they're going to stop trusting you, right? They're going to start thinking that you're manipulative and controlling. And it's really going to defeat the purpose of coming to the client session because they're going to be looking at you like, you're trying to say that there's something wrong with me and that's why we're here. That's how they're going to be feeling. You're trying to say, you're trying to tell me that Dr. Rose isn't going to, come at me. You're trying to say that just so I can let my guard down. But I know what's really going to happen. You're going to get in there. You're going to tell your side of the story and it's going to be all my fault. And that leads to the next way that forcing your PMDD partner to attend counseling sessions doesn't work is because they begin to have a negative perception of the private sessions. They begin to think that, when they're going into counseling, that it's a way of, punishing them for something that they've done. They're not thinking about this is a tool that's really going to help us get closer. This is a tool that's going to help us be on the same page. They're going to think because of what happened in our PMDD relationship, because of the trauma that we dealt with, I'm now being punished. Right? Private sessions are not to punish either partner. It is to help you develop tools, coping mechanisms, which you actually need that are designed for PMDD that's going to help you move forward. It is going to give you a plan for the next month, but it is not to punish you. I'm not here to punish you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to shame you. And that goes for both partners. I really don't care what you've done. It's not about that. I'm not coming to you and saying, oh, I'm going to give you these tools based off of how horrible your relationship has been. I've been there. I have been there, or I've seen it with my private clients. So that's not the purpose of it. And the next thing is when you force your PMDD partners to come to counseling or private sessions, you may have mismatched expectations, right? And what that means is and I always talk about this a lot of times with my private clients, what is your goal for these sessions? Because I want to know what you're expecting to happen. What transformation are you expecting to happen? What is it that you feel like you need? Because if you're coming into a private session and you're saying, I just want for you to eliminate PMDD. I'm coming to you, Dr. Rose, so that you can make PMDD go away. I will never promise you that. I wouldn't still have it. Hello, I would not still have PMDD if I had the ability to eradicate it from your PMDD partner. And that's a trigger for me, because when I see a lot of things online, especially that are saying cure PMDD or heal PMDD so I don't have it anymore. But I feel like it's so different for everyone. And being that a cure, as a doctor, and I'm basing this off of research, being that a cure has not been identified, marketing it as you have a cure, you have a way to get rid of PMDD by all of these things, I don't buy into that. I personally don't subscribe to that. I am never going to tell you that I'm going to cure PMDD. And I want to make that very, very clear. I can help you navigate and cope with your symptoms. I can help you stop the monthly breakups by cutting out the stress that you're having. Absolutely. That is my promise to you. But curing PMDD is not what I do. That is not what I do. And I think a lot of times when you have those mismatched expectations where one partner may say, well, I just came here because I thought she was going to like zap it away with her magic wand. It's you're undermining the process, because it is a process, or you're thinking it's a one-time thing. You're thinking you can come on one private session and it can completely heal your PMDD and then you can go about your life. PMDD happens monthly. Every single time that you or your PMDD partner go into PMDD, it looks different. Life stressors impact PMDD differently. So there's no way that I'm going to be able to forecast every single life event, every single stressor that you're going to be able to have in your life, in order to say, I'm going to be able to say that whatever tool that I give you is going to help you, not just for this month, but all future months. This is why I have my monthly PMDD partner package, because different things happen every single month. And I don't give you the same tools every single month, right? So it is a very consistent process. You have to commit to the process. This is not a quick fix. If it was, a lot of people, nobody would have PMDD if you just thought you could get rid of it in one session. And so another reason why forcing your PMDD partner to come to private sessions doesn't work is it's not effective if both of you are in the place of wanting to change. What I have seen and what I know to be true is some people get complacent in the suffering so much that they just think, oh, well, it is what it is. This is just how our relationship is going to be. No need to try anything new. No need to change anything. No need to find new ways to cope with anything that we have going on. We're just going to be like this forever, because I'm choosing to be with you, but this is just the best that it's going to be. And when you're in that place where you're getting so hopeless that you don't want to change anything, it's not going to be effective, because you're in that helpless, hopeless place. And if you're in that place and you come into the sessions, and if I say, why don't let's try this for this week? Oh, no, that's not going to work, Dr. Rose, because blah, 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 blah. Like, there's going to be a whole bunch of excuses as to why the tools don't work, because you don't want anything to change. You've just become so complacent that you're just willing to accept it. You don't believe that it's even possible for your relationship to change because PMDD is involved. And you may say, I know that I want to be with this person. This may be, the mother of my children, the father of my children. We're committed. We're in this for the long haul. We're not going to break up, but we're just going to commit to a life of suffering. Okay. The sessions aren't going to work. Because if you're literally committing to a life that is less than you deserve, and I'm telling you that it doesn't have to be that way, and I'm telling you that you deserve better, and I'm telling you that you can have better, and I'm telling you that I have transformed PMDD relationships to where you start off like that, but you don't end up like that, and you almost think like it's too good to be true, so you're not even willing to take the first step, then it's not going to work, because you're going to resist the changes. You're not going to want anything to change because you feel like, what if it doesn't work? Right. So that's the next thing, is there's this underlying resistance to change, because you feel like you don't want to get your hopes up in thinking that something's going to work and then it doesn't. I don't want to invest in this because what if it doesn't work? Well, what is the alternative? Not investing in this and then nothing, it still stays the same. If you know that you're not happy in your PMDD relationship, why would you not try something different than what you're doing? Because PMDD is monthly, so it's coming back. And for some reason, I have no idea why this is a thing, but it's PMDD comes back super fast. Like I feel like my months are getting shorter and shorter. I'm like, again, it's coming back. Like every time ovulation comes, and I'm in ovulation right now, I'm just like, I can't believe I'll be in PMDD like in a couple of days because I feel like I just left it. I feel like I just got on my feet and then I'm going right back into it. So being that I know that, think of it like this. PMDD comes in a cycle. It comes in waves. Your partner's body is on a cycle if they have PMDD, or your body's on a cycle, or maybe both of your bodies are on a cycle. If you have a resistance to change, if you're denying reality, you're always changing because you're living life in a cycle. Even if you don't have PMDD, your partner lives their life in a cycle, therefore you live your life in a cycle. Nothing is ever staying the same except for your misery if you choose to do nothing about it. Nothing ever stays the same except your misery unless you choose to do something different about it. What is that quote? I think it's Albert Einstein. Insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again and expecting different results. If you're not happy with your relationship in February of 2024 and you go into March of 2024, you are going to see more of the same. If you don't choose to do something differently, this is why I have the private sessions. This is why I have the Passionate PMDD Partners course, which is still open, by the way. It is still open. I know a lot of you DM'd me and said, oh, I missed this one. Do you have any more later? Every single week, a new training is released, but at the end of it, you'll have access to all four in the course. You have lifetime access to it. For limited time only, you can still get in there and catch the replays, but go to the link that's in the show notes or In Love with PMDD under courses, and it's still available to you for you to get. There will be a workbook for those individuals that have finished the course. And because I've gotten so many DMs and emails and, just people telling me how much, the podcast has helped them, the private sessions have helped them. If you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, leave a review, screenshot me the review that's on Apple Podcasts. I will give you a free copy of the workbook on intimacy and PMDD, getting closeness, getting your needs met. All you have to do is email me, Rose at inlovewithpmdd.com, or you can just screenshot it and send it to my Instagram, In Love with PMDD. And the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of times PMDD partners have found me based off of the reviews. They're like, I can't believe, like, I even had one this week, a private client that's like, where have you been all my life? I wish I had found you earlier. Some of them have gone through breakups. Some of them were on the brink of a breakup and now they're having private sessions. But I really want you to just, I appreciate the private. I always, always, always appreciate the private DMs. I'm on Instagram at least 2 hours a day talking to PMDD partners and just hearing about your journey, sharing my journey. And I appreciate everything that you say, but I really want you to leave the review so that other PMDD partners can find the podcast, find the show. So if you know that it's been helpful, leave that review, screenshot it, send it to me, and I will email you a copy of the workbook for free. So that'll be my gift to you for helping PMDD partners. So the last way that forcing your PMDD partner to come to private sessions is not going to work is because it takes away their freedom. So I talk to you all the time about freedom. I am an Enneagram 7. I am a Sagittarius. I'm a free spirit. And if someone tries to cage me or force me to do something, it doesn't work out well because I just go in the opposite direction. It's like if you're trying to catch a butterfly, if you run after the butterfly, it's going to consistently fly away from you. But if you just stand still, the butterfly might rest on your shoulders. This is the same thing that's true in your PMDD relationship. If you're constantly nagging, yelling, complaining to your partner, we need to get help, we need to get counseling, we need to have sessions, we need to do this, it's not going to make them do anything differently. That's one thing I learned, and I learned it the hard way, right? So I'm teaching you this, and I've taught it to private clients, but I just recognize like I've actually done this in my, PMDD relationship where I was trying to force, literally feel like a little kid jumping up and down, like we need to get help. We're breaking. This is not good. Like we need to do this, but and because my PMDD partner didn't want to do it, he didn't do it. And there was nothing that I could have said that could have convinced him to do it. So that's what I want you to recognize. When you are nagging your PMDD partner to get help, when you are forcing them to do it, it doesn't make them change their mind. And again, if they do change their mind, they're going to be bitter and resentful and call you controlling and manipulative because of it. And that's going to defeat the purpose because now you're just going to be further apart. And you may feel good about the sessions. I've had that happen a lot of times where they get off the session and they're like, thanks, Dr. Rose, that was amazing. And the other partner is probably like cussing me out in their mind. Like, not because the session wasn't useful, not because it wasn't helpful, but because they felt like they were forced to do it, that they didn't have a say in it. Like it was up to you. You paid for it, you booked it, you told them where to be, and they sit there in color, right? They don't feel like a fully, formed human being that's allowed to have an opinion about what they do with their time in their life. They feel like you forced them to do it. And so even if they like the session, they're not going to, want to implement any of the rules. They're not going to want to make any changes because then it's going to be like you won. Now it's this competition because they're going to feel like, oh, if I go to these sessions and blah, 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 then I'm going to have to admit to them that what they did is right. And there's that fear of losing their freedom. They're like, because if I agree to this, then next thing you know, I'm going to be agreeing to all of these other things. And so to take that away, have the conversation, ask them what they think about having the sessions. Let them know why you want to have the sessions. Let them know I want to have the sessions with Dr. Rose because I want our relationships to get better. I want us to be closer. I want to be able to meet your needs. Be able to communicate to your PMDD partner that you want to do these sessions to better your relationship for the both of you, that it's not just self-serving for you. Because even though you may be the partner that has PMDD, your partner that doesn't have PMDD goes through a lot too. And we address that on the session. I have a lot of private clients where their partner has ADHD, ADHD. I told you all of the things, anxiety, depression, all of the things, seasonal depression. Your partner probably has more than you think that they have. But PMDD has the way of like overshadowing that because PMDD is very, it rips the covers off of everything. So it seems like there's a hierarchy, like PMDD here, and then everything else that the other partner has goes down here. And it doesn't work like that. All of your issues are addressed. Remember, my degree is in traumatology, and I've studied all of the disorders. I have not just studied PMDD. I've studied that along with a lot of other ones. So I am equipped to help you and your PMDD partner, but I want to make sure you do it in a way to where your PMDD partner feels seen, they feel loved, they feel validated, they feel like this is something that they're going into and that is going to help the both of you, and then you're doing it as a team. That's why I always say whenever I end the podcast is we got this, because I never want you to be so disconnected from your partner where you're like, I got this. And because you don't have it unless you both have it. Unless you're saying we, then it's just you and you're pulling them along for the journey. They're not going to respond to that. I wouldn't respond to that. I wouldn't. And I'm the doctor. Somebody told me, hey, we're doing this and da da da. Oh, hold on a minute. Like, ask me how I feel. I'm very communicative. So I will just come out and say, okay, babe, I hear that you want us to do this. This is how I feel about it. But a lot of times people, they don't want to fight. They don't want to argue. So they just agree to it and they resent you for it later on. And then you're wondering why it doesn't work and you're blaming them even more. So if you know that you need to have sessions with your PMDD partner, that this is something that needs to happen. I want you to do it the right way. I don't want you to force them. I don't want you to waste your energy in forcing them, because that's what I did. I wasted a lot of energy thinking that it was going to work, that if I said it enough times, that if I brought it up enough times, that if I convinced them enough that they would do it, and it didn't work. Obviously, we broke up. So I want you to be able to communicate in a way that is actually going to be effective, so that when you do have the private sessions and you do get the tools, that your PMDD partner is going to be open to doing it and it's going to benefit the both of you. So if that's something that you need to do, go to my website, inlovewithpmdd.com, under private sessions. I don't open up my calendar a lot for those pyramid sessions, so make sure you get those as soon as you can. But until next time, we got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.